Hello, everybody. Rob Cootie here. It's Tuesday, November 10th, currently 10:58 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As you know, we go live at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please share our podcast with our fellow network marketers all across the globe by using hashtag TheMLM-solution, hashtag TheMLM-solution. We appreciate it when you do that. We'll be live here just in a few seconds. See you then.
Welcome to the MLM Solution Podcast Show, where you'll learn the facts and hear the truth about the network marketing industry. Here's your host, Rob Cootie.
Hello, Miss Marie. How are you today?
Good morning, Rob. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I have no complaints yet.
Yet? It's still early in the day. Give it a minute.
It's still early, yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's like anything else. My days are up and down based on how my arm is willing to participate. And I don't know about you. Do you ever feel like you're working hard, but you're not making much progress? Do you ever have those kind of days?
Yes, unfortunately, I do. It's when you get into those 2-minute tasks that end up extending into hours because you run into things like technological difficulties or other unforeseen challenges. But hey, it's all part of doing business, right?
I have been busy this morning, and I feel like I'm making progress like a snail. I mean, it is flipping crazy. It aggravates you. I had to get up and walk around and keep from getting so frustrated. Because I want to get stuff done. I don't like dragging stuff out. I want it to go smoothly. I'm sitting down in front of the computer. I don't want to spend every minute of my day in front of the computer. I want to be able to sit down and get things done and move on.
Yep, I hear you.
Unfortunately, the tasks that I'm trying to accomplish laugh at me, snicker. Oh, oh yeah, what a fool, thinking he's going to get it done. No, don't think so. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. But anyway, the bottom line is we all have that situation, and guess what? You do what you got to do, right?
Absolutely.
There you go. So it's Tuesday, November 10th, guys, 11:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are the MLM Solution. And today's podcast, as you can see, is number 75 for all of you on the podcast that listen on the podcast. And we're grateful and thankful to all of you for doing that. And we are going to be talking about leadership conference calls, the pros and cons. Should you use them or should you not use them? We touched on this slightly in a previous episode. And then this one's going to tie into that a little bit because it's going to kind of bleed into that particular area. But Miss Marie, there are different aspects of the leadership calls, and we're going to talk about those different roles. If you're a business builder, you really need to know whether these are going to be productive for you or non-productive. Excuse me, that's what I meant to say, not non-productive. Because a lot of people, Miss Marie, think that they are the thing to do. And we're going to talk about some different types of leadership calls because there are different ones. And we're going to talk about each and every one of those different ones. And we're going to talk about the benefits of each one of those and obviously the negatives as well. Because we want you to have a full understanding of each one of them, which ones to use, which ones not to use. And believe it or not, there are times when you don't need to use them at all. So with that being said, Miss Marie, before we get started, I'm going to ask everybody, if you go to our various social media platforms, please like, share, and comment on those various social media platforms. We also, then, if you go to our YouTube channel, please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Also, hit the little bell twice. That way you'll get notified when we go live as well as when we upload new content. And also, if you like what we hear, and I see a lot of thumbs up on our YouTube channel, and I'm grateful for that. I say thank you to all of those that are doing that. But if you like what we're saying during the show, feel free to give us a thumbs up, a dancing lady, dancing bear, clapping hands, all that stuff. I appreciate it, and that gives us immediate feedback, which we love. And as always, our website is TheMLM-solution.net, TheMLM-solution.net. Additionally, if you want to find us, utilize hashtag TheMLM-solution. All right, Miss Marie. And finally, let me just say, guys, if you go to our main page, we have those downloads available to you. We have 3 of them. And as we always say, Miss Marie's not very happy about some of them. I understand. This is one of them. 4 critical mistakes most networkers make. Okay, and how to overcome them. And that's one of her favorites, if not the favorite, because she understands the importance of avoiding these critical mistakes. These are business killing mistakes. Okay, and that's the reason why that product exists. So with that being said, just to let you know, that is on the main page. If you go to TheMLMsolution.net, you'll see the free downloads. Also, 5 simple steps to success. Guess what? It's right there, right along with it. Also, 0 to Networking Hero, which I do not have an image of. I thought I did, but I will do that later. Okay, but those are all free. Download all 3 of them, guys. Video, audio, and ebook. And you'll notice there's a lot of bonuses, free bonuses in there to you guys as well. So it is a no-brainer. Before Miss Marie whips me into shape and tells me to only offer 1. Okay, because I believe to go above and beyond. Miss Marie's like, hey, that 1 product alone is above and beyond. So there you go. All right, with that being said, we got a good topic today that we're going to be talking about. And once again, for whatever reason, my lighting is not what it should be. I don't know why, but you know what? We're going to move forward. All right, with that being said, guys, today we're going to be talking about, let's put that back up, the leadership calls. All right, the pros and cons of them. First, let's talk about the different types. There's a company conference call, all right, and then there's organizational conference calls, and then there's leadership conference calls, and then there are your conference call or training calls, excuse me, okay? And you have to choose which one's going to benefit you the most. Once again, with Skype and Zoom and various webinar platforms, there's wonderful ways to conduct all of these formats in a very efficient and effective manner, okay? And that is really, that excites me. You know, the technology entices me about, you know, thinking about going back into the business. No, don't contact me. I'm not going back into business. But what I'm saying is there is so much at my fingertips technological wise that I'm tickled pink to be able to utilize those things. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is like, you know, cherry picking. You know, I could build a business so daggone fast and efficiently and be a lot more effective and probably a lot more profitable because of the fact that I would have access to tools I've never had before, effective tools. And one of them is Skype and Zoom.
Well, it is exciting because if you remember, Rob, back in the day when we were building actively, talking the 80s and 90s, leadership conference calls, training calls, all those types of things, it was strictly on the telephone. Yeah. So it was auditory only. And I remember some of the calls where they would try to chart out images for you. They'd be like, take a piece of paper in the middle, draw a circle. And it's just like, I don't know if you would like do a survey of everyone that was on the call, but I'm pretty sure lots of people came up with different pictures than what was actually intended.
I can only imagine the pictures.
So today, with all the webinar calls and video calls that are available, you know, especially from a training perspective, you have the opportunity not only to catch those auditory learners, but also the visuals, and you can display exactly what you intend for them to see. So absolutely so much more effective and efficient today. And I think that's an exciting aspect to it for sure.
Oh, no doubt. Oh, yeah, because that's what I'm saying, training calls. Used to be the training was the same way. I mean, I remember when we got faxes, that was a great tool, and they would fax you the training materials before the call, you know. And so you had, okay, on sheet 2, and that was almost like doing a presentation. Nowadays, you can do an online presentation, whether it's PowerPoint or Keynote, whatever. And that's awesome that you have that capability, because it makes the training so much more effective and efficient. And that is, once again, very exciting. And we're going to touch on all those. So let's talk about the corporate conference calls. You could use the word conference calls as well as leadership calls. It's the reason why the title has both of those in there, because they, even though they're different terminologies, they're identifying the same thing. Okay. Anytime somebody is conducting, if Miss Marie and I are hosting a conference call, which is a telephone only, okay, or if we're hosting a Zoom or a webinar, whatever, we're the hosts. We're in control. We control the narrative, control the subject matter, etc. And so we have the position of power, and I don't mean that in a bad way. What I'm saying is the position of authority. Let's say it that way, okay? In other words, people are getting on because they want to hear what we're going to be training. They want to see what it is that we're going to be talking about. So with that being said, you have a situation where when a company does it and they put out the word, the company is going to talk about, you know, usually more times than not, new product coming out, changes to comp plan, maybe some of the top leaders, they'll mention their names. They may be talking about an upcoming leadership trip, you know, extra bonuses coming around, whatever the case may be. The company will have these, they'll have leadership conference calls, they'll have product conference calls, and they'll have update conference calls, and they have all these different ones. And sometimes, Miss Marie, they'll have them on a regular, like every Tuesday, you know, or like every Tuesday is product conference calls, every Thursday is leadership conference calls, etc. Now, some of the leadership conference calls that are held by the company is for leaders only. In other words, the only people that get on there, the only people that get the code are the leaders of the company. In other words, the top 20 or top 20 earners. Okay. Every company handles it different. Okay. Now these, we're going to brush over these. We don't need to get in depth about these because we just want you to be aware of them. Okay. And you say, well, why do I need to be aware of them? Well, here's the thing. Either you or maybe someone in your downline may actually be in a position to start participating in these corporate selective leader type conference calls. Now, these things can be good or bad. And you say, well, what do you mean? Well, if it's your downline or if it's you may not always agree with what is being discussed on these conference calls. That's a determination for you to make. And you say, well, why is that? Well, because some of the things that they're going to be talking about, you may not want to share with your downline. And it's not because you're trying to be secretive. It's not trying to hold anything back from your downline. You have to decide, okay, guess what? This really doesn't affect everybody. And if I put it out to everybody, people are going to misinterpret this. And this could really slow down my momentum. I'm not really sure that this is something I want to share. Okay. Whether you want to share it with your top leaders or not is something that you're going to have to decide as well, because you can say all you want. Hey guys, don't share this with the downline. And you may give a totally legitimate, honest reason why, where they could totally say, yes, I'm a person of integrity and I get what you're saying, but they may have a different viewpoint on what should be shared and what doesn't. So once again, we talked about, and we had a show called Never Pass Negative Down Line, okay? And it's one of the golden rules in network marketing, never, never, never pass negative down line, right, Miss Marie?
That is accurate.
You will destroy your business faster than you could ever put it together. And so when you get on these corporate conference calls, it really is a dilemma that you are going to battle with all the time. I know some top leaders that they don't participate in any conference calls, Miss Marie. I don't know if I necessarily, in hindsight, as I look back over my career, I would probably lean more that way. Here's why. If I'm a top earner, the company's going to call me. If they see that my name's not on that list, in other words, participants, or they don't see my mug on the video conferencing, they're going to contact me individually. Okay. It's not to be a rebel, guys, at all. I'm not advocating that. This is a decision. What Marie and I do is make you guys aware of situations. You're going to be the one making these calls. And I'm not going to get into the reasons. I have found these things not to be very productive. Okay. And really, they take away a lot of my time. And you said, well, why is that? Well, look, if the company has enough products where I can create, and my downline can create 100 PV per month, I'm good to go. If there's a product that's causing problems or has a safety issue, the company's going to pull it right away. I don't need to be on that conference call. They're going to do it. Okay. They can email me if they so choose. Also, if they're going to make a change to the comp plan, what does that got to do with me? If they're just holding a conference call saying, hey, we're just going to let you guys know we're making a change comp plan, here's what we're making and here's why. Yeah, you would think that's something I need to be aware of, but I promise you, I will find out real quick that change is being made, right? Because it's going to affect me or my downline, and I'm going to notice that right away, okay? And by law, they have to put out a message to everyone that there's a change, and it cannot be secretive, all right? So the point is that I have found through my personal experience that some of these corporate conference calls are not really anything that I'm concerned about. Additionally, if they're coming out with a new product, that's great, okay? But here's the thing, they're going to do a promo on that product. They're not just going to one day pop up and have a new product, right, Miss Marie? They are going to do a pre-launch and then an official launch so they can build up the momentum. And they're going to say this product is back ordered when it may not be. But part of the marketing is this. They're going to do a pre-launch and then they're going to do a launch to drive up the enthusiasm. And they're going to have multiple calls where they're going to build up this product, right, Miss Marie, with testimonials and ingredients, right?
Yep, that's typically the way it rolls. And sometimes, too, what you'll find on some of the corporate conference calls is that it's a little bit of a cheerleading session. Yeah. They're giving success stories and things like that, which can be motivating for some people. But if you're an active business builder and you've got goals and you're following the 5 simple steps and you're doing consistent, correct business building activities, it's more of a distraction than anything else. You just want to focus on your business. That's so right. You have to be a little bit discerning in which of those conference calls are actually going to bring value to you and your business and which are just going to, well, essentially waste your time.
Yeah. And that exactly. Thank you for that input. She's absolutely right. And I was building up to that myself, that point, because that is ultimately what I wanted to do was give you a couple of examples of the type of calls they have and why it may not behoove you to participate in those, because you're going to learn about company changes anyway. So enough of that. We've got the corporate stuff out of the way. Additionally, where the hype really comes into play and where it really becomes almost overbearing is in your organizational calls. And there's organizations, people that really know how to build this business. And there's different ways to build a business. We all know that. Most of them are much harder than what the 5 simple steps are. Guys, I'm going to tell you, I've been there. I've done it. And the reason I came up with the 5 simple steps is because I said to myself, it has to be easier, because I saw people quitting, not only in my own business, but other businesses, because of the complexity. And they couldn't get support. And they couldn't fully grasp what they were doing and why they needed to do it and what the result was going to be. And the mentality of the leaders was, you either do it, this is the way we do it, you either do it or you don't. I mean, you know, if you're not going to do it, we're not going to help you. Right, Miss Marie? And that pretty much the attitude. Okay. And I saw good people that had real potential quit because they got frustrated with the system. And then when they tried to get help, they got snubbed and they said, that's it, I'm done. I spent good money to be a part of this, and I'll be darned if I'm going to be treated this way. And off they go. And so that's how I came up with the 5 simple steps. But also I learned it from other people. I just that it became real. How would you say? It became very evident to me as I went along, realizing how these guys, these pros were doing it. And once again, I told this story, why don't you guys share this with others? Whatever. So with that being said, the reason I bring it up, because if you have these organizational conference calls, sometimes, as she said, they're more this way. She's that way. The more raw sessions, and you say, why? Well, because of what I just talked about. We had the 5 simple steps. The 5 simple steps don't need rah. They work, okay? And history's proven that. That's all we got to say. The success of the 5 simple steps is created across the board, across the world, at all levels of network marketing is self-evident. So there's no sense in hyping something that has evidence staring you right in the face every day, okay? So when you get on these organizational conference calls, they realize the struggle that people are going through, but they really don't have an answer. So what do? Miss Marie, they have testimonials, do they not? They try to shame you into it. They try to tell you to put in more hours. They tell you that old, which I hate, that old cliche, work harder. You're not working hard enough. You know, they don't even bring up the, which is true. Work smarter, not harder. That is, if there's a truism, that's it. Working harder, folks, is not, I'm going to tell you, is not always the answer. You can work 20 hours and Miss Marie can work 10 hours in her business. And if Miss Marie's doing the things right, she's going to outperform you every day of the week. I don't care how many hours you work, right, Miss Marie?
Well, exactly. And that's part of the struggle also with some of the conference calls and things you get on is most people have limited time. They already have a full-time job. They have family obligations. They maybe only have 2-3 hours a day that they can dedicate to the business. And there's always something going on. Most companies, once you're into it, between the company, the organization, the team, there could be calls every single evening. And if you're spending out of your 2 or 3 hours, an hour on these conference calls every night, because that's what you do. My one of my bugaboo phrases that I hear is, oh, if you want to be on fire, you got to stay near the flame. And you do that by being on every single conference call. It's like,
yes.
No, I'm on fire when I'm making money.
There it is. There it is. There's the business right there. Okay. And we tell you guys how to get your first check. And when people get the first check, guess what? They're on fire. All right. So back to the subject matter. She has nailed it, guys. Here's the biggest. We talk about one of the biggest challenges you're going to have in network marketing period, and really in life. You got to realize, number one, the numbers. We tell you the numbers all the time, 97.3, 95.5. It's going to be one of those two for you in your business, all right? And yes, it could be 96.4. Let's not split hairs here. Let's just stay focused on the fact that the numbers are working against you, which means what? That attrition is always a problem in every industry, including this one. And since you know that, you know these numbers because we tell you these numbers. They're real. They don't change. So you know that you're battling this number. Why add conference calls that beat people up emotionally and take their valuable time? As she's just stated, we're both thinking just alike. You can tell that we're getting better and better because before she even said that, I was thinking, you know what? We got to address the fact that you could be on a conference call every day of the week. And I've seen people frustration. And here's the key word, this word right here, frustration. Folks, I'm telling you, people will quit because they're getting frustrated because they're on a call almost every night of the week. They're taking an hour or more from those calls, away from their family, away from cutting the grass, away from business building activity. In other words, people are like, I am done. I have heard the same thing over and over. They're making me feel bad because I'm not putting in enough hours and I'm not working hard enough, or I'm not a team player. I'm tired of being beat over the head with this negativity. I need those hours. I can't afford to be on these calls. And when I do, I feel worse hanging up than I did when I got on. Okay. And what is that doing? That is undermining the work that you're putting in. That is undermining the wonderful business foundation that you are working so hard to put into place. And some of those people you're going to be losing are going to be high quality people. Why? Because we teach you what? To use the scale of ambition and focus on what? High quality people. So if you are doing that, you're sponsoring people 5 and above, what are you losing? The same people that you just sponsored that are 5 and above. Well, how's your business going to catch traction if you keep losing people as fast as you bring them in? Because of a stupid conference call. Okay? And it's the reason why this episode today is different than the one we did before, because we talked about what they talk about in those conference calls. Okay? And we're touching on that now. But what we're doing today is we're talking about the different types of conference calls, and there are multiple conference calls. And here's what they do behind the scenes, guys. They know that we are emotional human beings and that people do things when they're emotional. And sometimes people make bad decisions and take bad actions because they're emotional. In the heat of the moment, they pull that trigger. In the heat of the moment, they hit somebody over the head. In the heat of the moment, in the heat of the moment, in the heat of the moment. There's so many bad stories that come out of the heat of the moment when you lose all sense of common sense. Okay? Well, guess what? They know that we as human beings are emotional, and they know that if they can get you hyped up, you will lose some of that common sense, and you may purchase that new product. You may be on the edge of your seat waiting for that new product. Or if they say other keywords that they may motivate you to get out there and work harder and put in more hours. And we always tell you, Miss Marie and I tell you, have balance in your life. Do not lose your job. Do not lose your family. If you're on a conference call every day of the week and you're taking time away from your family, taking time away from your job, taking time away from your business building activity, you're going to get negative out of all of that. So there's nothing positive came out of getting on every one of those conference calls. Miss Marie, you always got on these, now I won't say always. In the beginning, I got on these conference calls because I thought, oh, they're going to have this leader that, you know, so-and-so, because they would promote who it was going to be. And I thought, oh, they're finally going to reveal the magic bullet. And I would convince myself that this person is above reproach, and they have achieved this amazing success, and they're going to be the person that's going to reveal how this business really works. And by golly, I need to be on there because I can't afford to miss it. I'm working as hard as I can. I need that magic bullet. Remember those days?
Oh yes, and I think they still happen for a lot of people. And my favorite is always, you want to be on this call because it's going to be the most important one of the year.
Yes, there it is.
January.
There it is, guys. There it is, right there. We're telling you, don't fall for that stuff. Look, you know. Okay, so let's stay focused. We talked about the company. We talked about the organization. Now let's talk about the leadership calls. I want to stay focused because I'm going to give you some insight on what you can do. But we got to stay focused on these different types first. Now let's talk about leadership calls. This is a select group. Let's say that Miss Marie and I are sponsored by Randy Gage, okay? And Randy has a weekly conference call, leadership conference call, okay, for all of his leaders that are creating 10,000 group volume and more, okay? And these sometimes can be really good because if you have a really good leader, they talk, say Randy Gage will say, hey guys, this is what's going on with the company, okay? In other words, you get insight you would not get typically anyplace else from your leader if they're connected, which is valuable, okay? Once again, knowledge is power. You don't always pass it down line. But I'm telling you, I've been on these calls and they can be really insightful. They can be really revealing. And it tells me the health of the company. It tells me what's coming down the road. It's different than a corporate conference call because corporate conference calls are not going to reveal this inside information, okay? And typically the bigger you are in the business or in the company, the more insight and the more connections you have, okay? Because they want to keep you close. They want to keep you with the company, and typically the company is willing to share that information, okay? Or there's somebody working in the corporate office that is keeping people they like informed, if you will. We all know this. This happens in life and in business all the time, okay? It's just the way it is. So if you have that type of connection and you are able to get that kind of insight, it helps you immensely. Whether that information is positive or negative, there is a lot of great insight into what's going on, which helps me as a business builder and as a leader to really say, okay, here was my original 6-month plan, but I need to make some adjustments here. And you know what? That could cause me to explode. That could cause me to, put one foot in, one foot out. But it gives me great insight on what I need to do 6 months down the road, which I'm very grateful for. Other times there's, in these leadership calls, they're like, hey, we got a fellow leader, let's say Dan, and he's going through a really tough health scare. if we can, let's all pitch in and help his business and organization. We have those kind of discussions, which is awesome. That's what you want. I'll spend time on those type of calls because I'm helping my fellow human being. Okay. And even when I get inside information, I'm not just helping myself, I'm helping my downline on what I should share and what I shouldn't and what time frame. So when it's positive, and these calls are only once a week, I'm willing to do that. That's an investment into my future as long as my leader has a level head and is being positive. Even when they're sharing negative information, they're being positive and they're being helpful and they're being insightful and their heart is in the right place. If I got those things going on with my leader, I don't have a problem spending an hour on that call. And a lot of times, Miss Marie, it's a Q&A as well. Okay, it's a back and forth. Well, we have Q&A and then we'll have back and forth. Hey, this is what I found work. I just want to share that with everybody because they usually will go around. Hey, do you have any questions? Do you have this? And it was really productive. So in those situations, you have to make that determination. I share the positives that I experience in these calls so that you can use that as a guide for if in your situation, if you have those type of leadership calls. Miss Marie, have you ever had that? Have you got any insight into that?
Well, I was going to say the leadership conference calls tend to be much smaller. Yes. And are able to be a little bit more interactive because, again, you're talking about working with your leadership. It's not the entire organization. That's when you have the entire organization, or especially the corporate conference calls, you've got hundreds, if not thousands of people on the line. You certainly can't, open it up for a Q&A or have a bit of a back and forth. So I have to say, one of the things I've always appreciated about leadership conference calls as well, especially when they're held on a weekly basis, is first of all, they start on time. They may be online and say, hey, we're going to start at the top of the hour. We'll be starting here in 2 minutes, whatever. The calls where, we're going to give people another 5 minutes to hop on. It's like, that's not a leadership conference call. Your leaders are on time, if not early, and you start, you get to the point, and you move on. Even if it's scheduled for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever it is, if you're through the information and you're done, you're done. You don't just take up the time, right? No, because again, you're working with your leaders. These are people who are very aware of the value of their time and they want to get back to business. They want the information and then they want to be able to go take advantage of that information and go move.
That's right. Boy, you're very insightful and you're on it today because that's absolutely right, guys. She has brought up a very important point, one that I did not think of and to share with you. But she's absolutely right. That's where they are. They're very monotone, they're very direct and to the point. And there's no flash there. I can promise you that. You're right, Ms. Marie. It was very businesslike. It was like a corporate boardroom, to be honest with you. Which sometimes it can be I don't like boardrooms. I've been in many of them, but the point is that you're right. It's very direct, very factional. One of the things I want to bring up is that we would sometimes share the tools. If we had new tools that were working, we would share that and let people know, hey, this is the results we've been getting. This is what we do. If you want to know how it works, get with me. So we would share stuff like that. And if there was a comp plan change, they would share it with us and say, okay, this is how it's going to affect. This is who it's going to affect. This is how it's going to affect them. This is why they did it. And that way you would prepare you for your downline if they started noticing or whether you wanted to share that. So Miss Marie is absolutely right. I just wanted to add those two extra things in there that I had forgot to bring up a moment ago. But that is what a leadership call is about. To be honest with you, more times than not, they're going to be productive and positive and worth your time. And that's only one call a week. And if it's more than one call a week, there's something going on. In other words, there's problems. Okay. And if they do go from 1 time a week to 2 times a week in a new company, and it says 3 months old, 6 months old, you better be on both those calls, those leadership calls, because I'm going to promise you there's something going on. Whether it's good or not is yet to be determined. But they don't add an extra leadership conference call unless it's absolutely necessary. Because as Miss Marie said, the guys that are on those, they're leaders, they're all about activity. They're not about being on a call. It is not social hour, I can promise you that. And if you try to make it social hour, I'll be honest with you, you'll alienate yourself from that leadership group real fast. It's a very factual. So with that being said, Miss Marie, I think we covered the leadership call, don't you?
I believe so, yes.
All right. Okay, that sounds good. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to talk about your organizational conference calls, okay? We talked about your leader having their organizational calls. Now we're talking about you. In other words, Miss Marie has, let's say, 1,500 people in her downline. Now it's her organization, okay? And Miss Marie would no longer follow her sponsor or leadership line's organizational call. What she would do is participate in the leadership call, not in the organizational call. Okay, she wants to keep her calls down that she's going to attend down to a minimum. Okay, and being that Miss Marie's been in this business, she understands the importance of leadership calls. Now, if Miss Marie's in the top 5 earners of the company, and the company has a leadership call, she wants to be a part of that. Okay. Because sometimes those are just as factual and very monotone and very corporate like, much like the leadership calls in an organization. Okay. And if you're one of the top 5 earners, it behooves you to be on those calls, because that's an investment into your future with that company. And you say, well, why? Well, because the company sees that you have a real interest in the future of that company, and they will start trusting you and sharing information with you that otherwise they may not share. So that is an investment. And that's different than the company's product launch conference calls, all this other conference calls they have, expansion. We're going to new countries calls and all that. Guys, that is something that you'll have to make a choice, but they have those all the time. You got to cut it down and keep it to a minimum. So let's get back to Miss Marie's organizational calls. Miss Marie it's imperative that when she does her organizational calls, that she conducts herself much like the boardroom, like we just talked about, the monotone, the factual approach. Hey, this is what's going on. And keeping it to her downline. For instance, she gets on there, the company announces they're coming out with a new product. A lot of her downline hasn't gotten on that call. That's great. Okay. As a matter of fact, Miss Marie is telling her people, please do not get on those. The company's going to contact me. We'll go, because if you get on their call and then you get on my call, now you're up to 2 calls a week. And if you get on another call, you're up to 3 calls a week. And she is communicating with her people the downside of being on all these calls. It takes their focus away. It can cause negative emotions inside of them. There could be misinformation on there, or it could be information that's correct and accurate, but they misunderstood what the message was supposed to be. So Miss Marie is taking control of her business by what? She's eliminating rumors by having her own organizational calls. She's eliminating all of this crosstalk and all this noise that's coming into her business that is coming from the outside, and some of it's not, it's unfounded. It's not accurate information, or not totally accurate anyway. So she's got one of 2 choices as a leader of 1,500 people. Either have her own or ignore it and hope it doesn't affect her business. Well, option number 2 is now a really good option to take, okay? Because what is it going to do? It's going to cause a higher exit rate. In other words, people are going to leave her business. Her retention level is going to go way down, okay? Because she's not able to keep the people because they're hearing rumors, and the rumors may not be totally true, and off they go, okay? So what does Miss Marie do? She has her own organizational. It's an investment into her people, an investment into her business. And in order for that to have a positive impact on that downline, her conference calls or Zoom conference calls, whatever she chooses to use, has to be factual, to the point. And I don't mean boring. She should certainly have some personality in there. But the thing is, she needs to say, hey, well, this is only going to be a half hour long. The company's coming out with a new product. We're going to touch on that lightly. The company's going into Germany. We're going to touch on that very light. She outlines what she's going to cover. She keeps it to 2 to 3 topics, unless there's really something important that makes it a 4th. But she keeps it short, okay? And she hits those highlights. Hey, this is what I learned. This is what's going to happen. Here's when they're going into Germany. Here's the launch date. Here's the products that are going into that. She's very factual and to the point, okay? And she'll tell her people, if you have any questions, please email those to me. And we will have another call later on if there's enough questions where we'll address that, but I'll let you know. And that's basically how she handles it. Ms. Marie, you got anything to add to that?
Well, I think along with that, it's the efficiency. You want to drive that informational exchange as quickly as possible. You want to provide the value and reinforce the 5 simple steps, the system that you're following, and the success path that everyone's on.
That's right. Absolutely.
Because you're not really going to motivate people. They are going to be self-motivated by the fact that the system is working for them. They're seeing success, their business is building, and their income is increasing. And that's the ultimate goal.
Absolutely. And you know what, Ms. Marie, you bring up a good point. The thing is that she's absolutely right. She should close every day saying, okay, guys, we touched on these 3 subjects, and please send me any questions you may have. Sorry about the noise in the background. But here's what we need to do. Remember, stay focused, the 5 simple steps. What we talked about today is just an add-on. If you stay focused, guess what? You're going to be fine. These are just new products. We're going into a new country. It's not going to affect the 5 simple steps. Just keep going. Okay? So she's absolutely right. Close it on a positive note. And that is what? Enforcing what you already know works. Okay? But here's the thing. You say to yourself, okay, well, you guys were participating in Randy Gage's leadership calls. When does Marie, with 1,500 people in her downline, conduct her own leadership? Guys, you do your own leadership calls when you have leaders. I don't care if it's 3 or 4 or 5, but here's the thing. You better know what to talk about during those leadership calls. And you better learn. In our advanced training, we talk about the content that you should address when you have your own leadership calls. Look, if you have 3 or 4 leaders, guys, one of those 3 or 4 leaders could potentially be one of your biggest legs. You cannot afford to stay in touch with them. You should have your own leadership calls. So Miss Marie, because she has 1,500 people, she will be doing 2 calls. She could do them both the same day. Here's the thing, the leadership call, she tells everybody, hey, look, you know what? Leadership call, guys, it's a half hour, 40. She sets a limit, half hour, 45 minutes or an hour. Okay, she'll pick one of those times. You want to keep it as short and to the point as she can. If you only have 3 or 4 leaders, a half hour should work. Because all she's going to talk about is leadership issues. And she's going to ask, hey, does anybody have any questions? Okay, and they'll have a little bit back and forth. Okay, and these leadership calls not only are addressing issues, but they're developing the bond between Marie and her 3 or 4 leaders. Okay, once again, they're saying it was a hang up. You know what? She was professional. She was to the point. We addressed real issues. People get excited about that. They don't mind being on calls when that's happening. And additionally, they're saying, hey, I'm getting some real value out of this. And you know what? It was quick. It was to the point. I wasn't on there all night. Okay, we didn't talk about the same thing over and over. She didn't try any false hype crap. She didn't do any of that. She just said, hey, this is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. All right. So as her leaders continue to grow, she'll probably have to go to 45 minutes to an hour. It's up to her. Okay. I didn't always find it necessary to go to 45 minutes or an hour, even as I had more leaders, because if I was only talking about 3 subjects, it didn't matter whether I had 100 people on there or if I had 20 people on there. It was the same basic time frame. Now, when it comes to my organizational thing where I have an organizational conference call because I have 1,500 people, it's nothing more than to relay important information. The company's going into Germany. The company is adding its new product. That's all I'm doing. It's not a social call. It's all I'm doing with my own language and with my own valuable insight from the company. I have a clear understanding of what's happening in Germany. I have a clear understanding of this new product, okay, and what it does and how it could fit in. I'm going to bring that to my 100 PV. I'm going to bring it in that if you have German contacts, okay, and if you, I don't care if your German contacts live in Switzerland, but they have family that live in Germany, whatever. I'm going to address that during an organizational call. And then in close, I'm going to talk about the 5 simple steps. Just stay focused, keep going, guys. You're doing great, blah, blah, blah. Right, Miss Marie?
Absolutely. And I think it's important that any news you're sharing, any items that are being brought up, you're tying back into how does this impact their business building efforts on a daily basis? How do they incorporate it? Or is it truly just an informational aspect, something that they need to be aware of?
Very well put. Absolutely. And so, as you can see, these calls have distinct differences and distinct purposes unto themselves. You don't want to mix them up. You don't want to say, well, you know what? Here's what I'll do. I'll do every Tuesday. I'll do a leadership call, and we won't hang up, and then I'll tell everybody else to get off, and then we'll go. Wait a minute. Let me get that. We'll have an organizational call, then I'll tell everybody to get off after an hour, and just the leaders stay on. Guys, that's a big mistake. I'm telling you, that's a big mistake, because not everybody's going to hang up. Because there are going to be people say, ooh, I wonder what they talk about on these conference calls. Guys, do not do that. That is not efficiency. That's being dumb. That's inviting trouble. There's a distinct difference between leaders and people that are in the 97 group. You cannot mix them together. It won't work. This is a disaster waiting to happen. Do not combine the two. If you want to hold them both on Tuesday, have one at 7 p.m., have one at 9 p.m. And if you're going to have one at 7 p.m., I encourage it to be your organizational. Your leaders will stay up at 9 o'clock and get on. And people love being a part of a select group. And leaders know that they're a part of a select group. You cannot bleed over people, even accidentally, because that takes away this, I won't say elite, top performers like hanging out with other top performers. And when there's a small little group of top performers, they realize that they have achieved something special, and they're now part of this small, high achieving group. And there's a certain amount of satisfaction that comes with that, and rightfully so, because they earned their way into that. And you can't give that away, even on an accident. So do not combine the two, thinking that you're being efficient. You're making a huge mistake, okay? And even if your leadership group goes from 3 to 4 people to 12 to 22, it's still an elite group. I really don't like the word elite, the way it's been abused in today's world. But I'm talking about a high-level achieving people that have paid the price. That's what we're talking about, okay? And these people don't want to give that up, okay? They earned the right to be there, to be heard, to be a part of that small group. There's a reason, Miss Marie, as you know, and we're getting to the 47 mark, there's a VIP section. When you go to corporate events and you're one of the top earners in the company, VIPs sit up there. They earn the right to sit there. You're not allowed in there, right? You've seen it.
That is accurate. You always want to reward the people who are performing at a high level, those who are producing, not just those who are talking.
That's right. Exactly. And if you do dilute it, I'm going to tell you, that will upset the leaders, and they'll lose motivation. They're human. I'm telling you, they're not robots. They're going to get pissed off that somebody weaseled their way into their group and didn't earn it. Okay? You cannot allow that to happen. Okay, so to bring this to a close, we've talked about each one of these different conference calls. And as we close it, we're going to talk about the pros and cons real quick, because they're short and they're sweet. Guys, the pros are, if they're handled right, they can be great. Miss Marie having her leadership calls and her organizational calls for her 1,500 group, if she keeps her conference calls to 2 a week, one for leadership, one for organizational, and you don't even hold an organizational if there's no news to share. You just don't, hey, every Wednesday, regardless of whether I got anything to say, we're going to be on there. No, there is only organizational calls when there's information, okay? Because Miss Marie cannot address every person's concerns in her 1,500 organization, okay? That's just not possible, okay? The only time you have organizational calls is when it's expansion taking place, new product taking place, comp plan adjustment, or there's an issue within Marie's organization that needs to be addressed. That's the only time, right, Miss Marie?
Right.
Okay, so we have that out of the way. Okay, so the max conference calls that Miss Marie's going to have in her business per week is going to be 2, but really she's only going to have 1. Why? Because you will always have a leadership call. Why? Because you got to have leaders. The whole essence of this business is what? Find and work with your leaders. You want as many leaders as you can have, meaning that Miss Marie will always have leadership calls, and it has to be earned in order to get there. And so with that being said, all the other conference calls that we've talked about, I'll be honest with you guys, if I was back in the industry, and I can say this with a lot of confidence, not only for myself, but I've witnessed it with other top performers, very few actually participated. Very few. I will tell you that some of the leaders reluctantly hosted these calls, Miss Marie. I know for a fact that some of them had to be coerced into getting on stage at corporate events to hold these calls and these leadership, when the masses break away at a corporate event, Miss Marie, and then they say, hey, only so and so and above, like emeralds and above, can come back at 11 a.m. and nobody else. Well, some of those leaders that get on the stage are reluctantly doing that because they don't want to participate in this because it's corporate mumbo jumbo. Okay. The company has asked Marie if she'll speak at that 11 a.m. Emerald and above event, and here's what we want you to talk about. Okay. And she may be like, oh, I really don't want to do this. I really don't believe in this, but she's trying to be a team player. Okay. That happens a lot. Okay. A lot of times there are leaders that will host conference calls, on the phone, and reluctantly, believe me, I've been there, because they don't believe in the hype. They don't like what takes place. They don't like the verbiage. And they will do it 2-3 times and then they're gone, Miss Marie. I don't know if you've seen that or experienced that, but they do not like doing that because they know there's not much positive. They know that it's more about hype than it is factual, okay? And a lot of these top performers, like Miss Marie said, they're all about business. They're all about business building. They don't want to be a mouthpiece for the company, okay? Right, Miss Marie, have you ever experienced that?
Oh, absolutely. And keep in mind too, again, if you're participating in the network marketing industry and the model that we're talking about, you're a business builder. You're leveraging the company for your own personal business building activities and wealth accumulation and growth. I mean, you're using them as a tool. And some people, especially some of the more successful ones, they don't want to be too connected to the company that they become part of the company perceptually.
Absolutely. You well put. Boy, you're on a roll today. she's nailed it each and every time. And without dragging this on, because we need to get off here, she's absolutely right, guys. Look, you're a business builder. You're an entrepreneur. You're just using this business model. You try to keep your distance from the company as much as possible so that you can make what? Honest evaluations about the financial health and future of that company. We always told you about 1 foot in, 1 foot out in the first 3 years. There's a reason for it. If you get too close to the company, that could really muddy your judgment, okay? And that's not good for you or your downline. So you want to make sure that you don't get caught in that trap if you can help it. But the thing is, Miss Marie, as we close, we're going to close right now, all in all, for me personally, and I'm not going to speak for you, I want to hear your input. I will participate in very few. I've hosted some. I refuse to do it after that. It's not to be a rebel. It's because I understand the potential problems far outweigh the gains that I'm going to get out of not only hosting them, but being on them myself. Your input?
Oh, I agree. Especially the corporate calls, they tend to be repetitive after a while because they have new people coming into the company all the time. So in the early stages, participate in a few. Once they start hitting that repetitive level for you, you need to spend your time elsewhere in more valuable activities in building your business,
That's
my
right.
opinion.
Absolutely. And I'm saying this and we're closing. If there's a comp plan change and you say, Rob, that's really important, why would you not get on the corporate calls for comp plan? If I get a heads up that there's a serious comp plan, I will probably get on there. You say, well, why wouldn't you? Well, look, guys, if there's a comp plan change coming, here's the thing. I will find out, okay? If I'm with a company, believe me, I look at the comp plan, and if there's changes, I will notice it, okay? And I will immediately let my downline know. I'm not doing them a disservice because what's important? The 5 simple steps. What if the change that they're making is to make it more stable and really doesn't affect anybody? What if the change they're making is to give more money to new people? Okay, it doesn't matter because I'm teaching people in the old comp plan, in other words, before they make the changes, to get their first check, and nobody complained. So why would I invite a hornet's nest into my downline over a change that may not affect them? So it's not that I'm hiding anything, and it's not that I'm sticking my head in the sand. It's that history has shown me personally that I shouldn't worry about all these little things that may happen, and sometimes they don't happen. Even when they bring it up, they decide not to. Why would I do that to my downline and put them on this emotional roller coaster? Okay. Additionally, if there's a new product coming out, what difference does that make to me? Okay. Well, Rob, wouldn't you want to be a part of the pre-launch and this and that? Sure, I would. If I get wind, which the company's always going to promote it, so I don't need to go on these conference calls. Believe me, they're going to let me know that they're coming out with a new product. And if we're going to Germany with this new product that's targeted towards Germany, yeah, I'd like to get on in the pre-launch on that. Yes, absolutely. And you know what? If I'm going to the company website, if I'm looking at my company emails that I'm getting from the company as one of the top earners, I'll see that they're going to be going into Germany. I'll see that they're coming out with a new product, and I'll figure out a game plan to be a part of that expansion and that pre-launch, product pre-launch. So I don't need to get on the conference calls for that. Okay, I'm not being a rebel. I'm not telling you bad information here. I'm telling you, you have a choice to make. And I let you know both sides of the coins. They had a conference call. You're also going to get an email, etc. So I don't worry about those things in particular, especially as this. Look, you're already doing 100 PV per month. Your leaders are already doing 100 PV per month. If they're coming out with a new product, it's up to each individual person whether they want to add that product on top of their 100 PV they're already doing, or if they want to replace some of the products that they have already on auto ship. Maybe this new product replaces those. That's up to them. As long as you're doing 100 PV, what difference does it make? Right, Miss Marine?
That is accurate.
Because, and I'm telling you, I'm closing, because if you get focused on the product, you're going to get into sales. You're going to count how many new products that you sold in Germany. But if you focus on the 100 PV, you're going to be able to look into Germany and say, wow, look, I got 1,000 people doing 100 PV. Okay, what would you rather have? I'll take the 100 PV every day of the week. You guys can have all the products you want. Okay. Would you not agree, Miss Marie?
I agree. Absolutely.
Yep. All righty, guys, that's it. I just had to throw that in real quick as we close because this is important information. As you can tell, as always, we deliver information you're not going to get anyplace else, right, Miss Marie? You know it. So with that being said, Miss Marie, with tomorrow's subject is going to be podcast number 76, the value of good questions. You might think, gosh, what a boring freaking subject. What does that mean? Well, you're going to find out tomorrow. The value of good questions could save you and your business. You don't want to miss this because, once again, you're not going to learn this. You got anything you want to add there before we go?
Nope. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time. 11
a.m. Yep. Once again, please share our podcast with our fellow network marketers across the globe with what? Hashtag TheMLM Solution. Hashtag TheMLM Solution. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Thank you for listening to the MLM Solution Podcast. For more info, visit our website, TheMLMSolution.net. Please follow us on the following platforms: Facebook, YouTube, etc. And share this podcast with our fellow network marketers around the world by hitting the share button on our various platforms.